We are on the grounds of the Pyramid Peak Water Treatment Plant. Getting water here from long distances like the Colorado River, the Salton Verde River, there must be a mechanism of doing that. How do we get it here?
Well, say the Salt River system and the Verde River system, that water comes from, Salt River starts up in the White Mountains and it makes its way through Roosevelt Lake, Apache Lake, and that system of reservoirs that most of us in Arizona are familiar with. After that water goes through those reservoirs, it goes into a series of canals operated by Salt River Project. Those canals actually, as an interesting fact, are built over most of the ancient Hohokam irrigation system of canals.
The original residents.
The original residents of the valley. Colorado River water comes through the CAP canal behind us here. It gets lifted a little over 1,060 feet from the river to get it to this point, and it travels about 153 miles to get here. Now, water's pretty heavy. Anybody that's ever picked up a gallon of milk or a nice big jug knows that it's fairly heavy. It weighs about 8 pounds per gallon, and moving that water that distance and lifting it requires a lot of electrical energy. In fact, the CAP canal system is the single largest user of electrical power in the state. Most of that power, about 95% of it, comes from the Navajo generating station. The remaining small amount comes from Hoover Dam.
That is just amazing.
Yes.
Absolutely. Why do we need so many sources of water?
Well, we utilize a lot of different sources of water for Glendale, primarily because we live in a desert. Reliability on a single source in a desert environment can be a little tricky. It's kind of like, I guess, a good adage that we utilize a lot of times in the financial industry, which is don't put all your eggs in one basket. Having the flexibility of multiple sources allows us to utilize various sources depending upon availability of a certain resource during a given time of year, or if there's a climate change, or if there's a water quality issue associated with a certain resource.
We're pretty smart in Glendale. Once the water gets here, what happens to it?
As Stephen mentioned, it was a 153-mile travel down the canal to get to here. It's another 200 miles down to Tucson, so this canal travels all the way from Lake Havasu to Tucson. One interesting fact here is that all of the customers along the canal all contract with the CAP for their water needs for their annual processing. When the water travels such a long distance, it gathers debris, dirt, and impurities in it along the way. And so when we open the gates and take the water into the plant, we have to treat for the debris and the sand and dirt and impurities in the water. So when we bring it into the plant, we screen the debris out. Then it goes through a series of processes here where we add some chemicals to tie onto the dirt and debris in the water and let that water settle out so it clears up, and then we run it through our filters. We add some chlorine to it, and it's prepared for drinking water. The plants that we have here in the city of Glendale is the Pyramid Peak Water Treatment Plant here in North Phoenix, the Cholla Water Treatment Plant, which is at 45th Avenue in Cholla, and then the Oasis Water Campus, which has the surface water plant from SRP and our groundwater treatment plant. All these plants together have the capability of producing about 120 million gallons a day in water. On average right now we're running anywhere from 25 million gallons a day to 67 million gallons a day, depending on the part of the year we're in. Wintertime 25 million, summertime we produce more. So annually we're making about 14 billion gallons of water a year. Now, to produce all this water and have it a dependable source so we can provide it to the community 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we have a very intensive maintenance program where we're constantly reviewing our process systems and all of our equipment to make sure it's in top running order.
That's wonderful. That's amazing. That's a lot of water for the desert,
it sure
isn't
is.
it? Explain the uniqueness of the Pyramid Peak Water Treatment Plant.
Well, out of the 4 plants, Pyramid Peak is a plant that operates mostly on gravity. We use our electrical power to move the water through the process system here at the plant, but then when it's ready for drinking, we let it fall downhill into Glendale, and the elevation difference happens to work out to give us our system pressure. By the time it gets down into Glendale, we have our system pressure, and we've not had to pump it at all into the distribution system. By having this as a gravity plant, we save about 40% on our electrical power as compared to Cholla and to the Oasis plant.
We're talking a lot about water, but I'd like to talk about conservation. Can you give us some of the things that Glendale does to educate people on conservation?
Sure, Councilmember Knaack. We have a division that's specifically set up for conservation and sustainable living. That group expends a lot of time and effort in going out to schools, going out to homeowners associations, going to various different organizations and teaching the value of water, how to conserve water. We also teach how to use certain conservation components like different shower heads and light bulbs and all that. And we also teach the kids in school how water is used, where it comes from, how it's distributed through the system. So they have a very basic understanding of water, because as you know, the time to teach people about the conservation of water is starting at an early age. And so that group has done a marvelous job, and they're an award-winning organization.
That they are.
Yeah.
And I actually did a show with Joe Miller and Joanne Toms on water conservation, and we talked about the Xeriscape garden and all the things you can do to conserve water. And I am really encouraging people to do as much as they can. We live in a desert, so please conserve water.